Hello. In today's video, we're going to be looking at show don't tell. Now, I hate that phrase because a lot of people don't understand it, and it's not particularly intuitive. It's caused a lot of problems. You see more frequently than you should. People argue that it has no bearing on written media. It's all about visual media. So, comic book, graphic novels, film, that sort of thing. And that's complete nonsense, because what it means is show something to the reader and let them figure it out for themselves rather than telling them just outright. So a good example of this would be you are trying to say that John is tall. Showing would say, you'd write something like John ducked his head as he went through the doorway. Short people don't do that, so the reader can figure out from that he's tall. Telling would be just saying John is tall. And the thing is, both have their merits. You never want an entire book of showing or telling on its own. You need a mixture of both. Having said that, showing is, generally speaking, more interesting, more pleasant to read John ducking his head as he goes through doorways than to just read a sentence of John is tall. You, as the writer, need to decide when you want to show and when you want to tell. That really only comes from experience. Over time, you'll read more writing, either through other people or stuff you've written yourself, and you'll realise that some bits don't feel right. And what you can do is look at whether or not you are showing or telling. Experience is really the only thing that can teach you, but as a general guide, you need to look at the point that you're trying to make. What is the purpose of the statement that you're making? So if we go back to John, he's tall, but now he's going to the airport. So you could say John went to the airport. That's a perfectly fine sentence to put in the book. You could start a chapter that way, end a chapter that way. You've got an entire chapter of stuff, and then with John drove to the airport. That's fine. That's 100% telling. But it's fine if that's the point you're trying to make. If the only point that you care about is that John went to the airport and the plot is happening at the airport, it's completely fine to do that in a telling way. Because no one cares about his journey. We've all been in cars, probably. We know what driving to a place is like. We don't need that explained in great detail. If, however, you're making a different point, which is that, maybe John is going on a trip he doesn't want to take. Maybe the flight is to see a family member he doesn't like, or maybe a family member's died and he's got to fly out to go deal with some of the estate or something. Or maybe he's got to pick someone up from the airport that he doesn't like, that he doesn't want to pick up from the airport. What you could do then is do a nice showing scene where he's driving to the airport, and you can put in all of the anxiety or the fear or the anger, all of that stuff that he's feeling, whatever he's feeling on the way there. You can show that to the reader if that's the point you're trying to make. And that's what it boils down to. What is the purpose of that piece of writing? Are you trying to say something? It's happening, there's something else going on behind the scenes, or are you he's moving from one place to another? You can really do that for any part of writing. You boil down to what is the point you're trying to make, and then you know how to approach it. Having said all of that, there are no hard and fast rules in writing. You can pretty much do what you want. It's about the point, but there is also an element of what do you want the reader to experience? When you show, you bring the reader along for the ride, if you will. They are much more likely to experience what the character is experiencing themselves. If you wanted the reader to experience the monotony of, driving to an airport, or, maybe John is getting the train to work, maybe he's commuting for a couple of hours every day. If you want to show the monotony of that, then you could show the entire experience in all of its glory and boredom. If you want the reader to feel the monotony. Whereas if you just, you could get away with saying it was an incredibly monotonous life that he lived. It depends on what you want to do with that. And I mean, to be fair, that's what 90% of writing boils down to, is what do you want the reader to experience? And then you can kind of do what you want. But that's a topic for another day. That's the gist of show, don't tell. You need a mixture of both. If you do nothing but show, it gets very long and the plot kind of gets missed in amongst everything else. Whereas if you just do tell all the time, it's really boring and you won't have any level of kind of resonation or empathy or anything like that between the reader and the characters. Practice it. And if you are struggling, if you don't know whether or not this should be a telling or a showing scene, section, chapter, whatever, try both. If you do have a character who's going to an airport and you don't know whether or not you should say they went to the airport or do an entire chapter dedicated to their journey, write both. See which one feels better. See which one flows better, because if it's not important, if their journey isn't important, then what you'll find is when you're reading it back, you're getting really bored. You're wishing it would speed up. You're wishing that he would get to the airport so that the plot could move forward. Whereas if the trip itself is important, then you're not going to get bored. You're not going to be wishing it would move on. You're just going to be happy that you're in that moment with him. Do it both ways. See which one's better. See which one you prefer, and then go with that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. Have fun. That's generally my advice for all forms of writing. Have fun with it, because, we're not doing this to become billionaires. We're doing this to have fun. So have fun. Do what you want and have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, that's more important than anything else. Having fun with it will make your writing better. But make sure you do have a basic understanding of some of the rules, because once you have an understanding of the rules, you can break them. You need to understand them first. Leave comments or suggestions down below, and I will see you in the next video.